us while they are speaking if their network allows. The seminar is being recorded and the video will be uploaded on the project page. You're also welcome to revisit the discussion later, and feel free to share it with your network. We also invite questions from the audience and the colleagues at the end, and please feel free to write in the chat box and on the question and answer box on the right side. Also, the session is being telecasted live on SDPI's Facebook page. For those who are watching us on Facebook Live, please write your questions in the chat and they will be conveyed to the speakers through our team. With this, I would like to just give a floor to Dr. Waqar Ahmed, or the Joint Executive Director of SDPI, for welcoming remarks. Over to you, Dr. Waqar.
Thank you, Dr. Hina, for this introduction. Let me start by formally welcoming all to this very important public-private dialogue on the role of oil and gas sector in clean energy transition of rural Sindh. It is very heartening to see several friends here who have worked in this area for long and have educated us with their research and advocacy. Also, I'm glad to see several esteemed organizations here with whom we have collaborated in the past and continue to do so. I guess at the end of the day, the agendas such as transition towards clean energy require very strong partnerships and coalitions for change. We are meeting today in the backdrop of very encouraging developments on this subject. As most of you know, that the government has embarked very strongly on the implementation of alternative and renewable energy policy, aiming to boost the share of electricity generated from renewable sources. We also see steps being taken for implementation of national electric vehicle policy, which has also been welcomed by the environment and climate experts globally. There's also a renewed focus on clean and green energy under the ongoing phase of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. And as we meet at the end of May, we also understand that federal and provincial budget preparation is in full swing. And one would like some of today's policy recommendations to go to the relevant departments so that public investment can help our goals for today's meeting as well. I think, as some of you may have noticed in the video which was being played initially, one of the concerns that our research raises is the uncertainty of fiscal policy faced by the energy sector, which at several levels hampers the initiative by private sector to transition towards clean and green initiatives. For example, the incentives offered by the alternative and renewable energy policy include tax breaks. These include lower trade taxes on inputs, on machinery, concessional credit for those willing to come into this sector. However, rarely these have materialized due to the frequent changes in the national and subnational fiscal policy. So certainty of fiscal policy should be a key message here. Second, we also note that regulatory uncertainty and regulatory burden also requires discussion today. The lack of a one-stop shop or a one window for our investors willing to enter into clean and green energy pursuits continues to hamper the investor interest. This is something which even the Chinese, who are greatly facilitated by the government, also continue to complain about. Several layers of regulation which a foreign and local investor continues to face at federal and provincial levels needs immediate attention. Time and again, we have called for an RIA, a regulatory impact assessment of a clean energy sector, which we hope will bring to the limelight some of the main issues which are stifling this sector as a whole. Thirdly, in the medium term, some quick wins are needed to demonstrate the success of new policy measures. While yes, investment in renewable sources should remain a priority, equally important will be to address the transmission and distribution challenges and incentivizing the demand side so that there is large consumer base for clean energy, large uptake of clean energy initiatives as well. For this, we believe that rural Sindh presents vast opportunities where large segments of population still do not have access to economical and certain power supplies. They could benefit from economical solar and other indigenous solutions. Uh, we have noted that according to the Sindh Solar Energy Project, Sindh has the potential to generate up to 10 gigawatts of electricity on the basis of solar power. And such a clean source of energy could easily make the province, or at least rural Sindh, self-sufficient in its power needs. With these thoughts, I once again welcome all of you to this meeting and look forward to hearing your valuable inputs. And it's back to you, Dr. Henna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vakar. And I think with this, just like Dr. Vakar mentioned, we have prepared a short documentary on the project on the clean energy transition. So I think it will be nice to just revisit that documentary for a few minutes, especially for the experts and for the people who have just joined us now. And then we'll proceed with the other proceedings of today's webinar.
The energy sector of Pakistan is marked with major inefficiencies, financial risks, and misaligned policies. Hence, there is a need to identify the critical factors and how our current policies and international agreements can shape up the future energy and environmental outlook of the country.
Pakistan remains one of the top most vulnerable country of climate change impacts.
We need to see COVID-19 as an opportunity to bring back the SDGs on track in a timely, efficient manner. We are constrained on resources, and climate-related SDGs are, of course, certainly off track. But this is the time to rethink our production processes and really build systems and processes so that we don't go back to business as usual.
Despite nationally determined contribution objectives, climate concerns, and risk of long-term financial locking due to thermal energy resources, the coal capacity of Pakistan has significantly increased over the years. This will most certainly put the country off track to meet its climate goals.
Green CPEC should be seen as an initiative where countries such as Pakistan can get to see a lot of knowledge and technology transfer. And of course, when this is embedded in current knowledge systems, it goes a long way in not just helping the public sector, but also the private sector to develop a shared understanding around green and clean energy over the longer term.
Pakistan has ample physical resource potential of wind and solar. Only a fraction of total power is being generated from renewables. Most important for green CPEC, the share of fossil fuel financing has been decreasing, while the amount invested in renewable energies, particularly hydropower, has been increasing.
Considering these potential impacts, Greening CPEC seems to be a good way of mobilizing finances by focusing on accelerating investments in green and innovative infrastructure, also in renewable energy, transport, nature-based solutions, agriculture, trade, and so on.
It will be timely to see that the fiscal policy or our investment-oriented promotion schemes which we have for the energy sector, they should be certain for our investors in the energy sector, so that private enterprise or even those involved in public-private partnerships get to have a certain policy environment in this sector. And of course, investments in green and clean energy require longer-term certainty of policies, which can only come around if fiscal policy does not see frequent changes.
Diversification of financial resources, along with awareness and capacity building in financial institutions, can ensure the availability of green finance and green stimulus. If this is to become a broader trend for Chinese overseas investments, we would need clear and stringent policy guidelines from both China and Pakistan. It would pave the way for clean energy transition in Pakistan.
So I think with this and having most of our experts on board now, I would just like to quickly move on to our co-partners, collaborators for this webinar, Shah Abdul Latif University, Khairpur, who have generally facilitated us and supported us for this webinar, and to talk about how the critical role of the oil and gas industry could play in the clean energy of transition of Pakistan. I will quickly move on to give my mic to Dr. Naveed Sheikh, a virtual mic, I would say, because, and he's an associate professor, been actively engaged in teaching bachelor's, BBA, MBA, and master level students in the economics department in Pakistan and United Arab Emirates. He is also a member of Pakistan Society of Development Economics and also American Association of Economics and Middle East Economics Association. He is also a principal investigator of 2 projects funded by USAID and UNDP at Shah Abdul Latif University, Khairpur, Pakistan. So I give a floor to Dr. Naveed for his welcoming remarks on the behalf of university.
Thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Dr. Naveed from Shah Abdul Latif University. I'm very happy to co-host this great webinar on the burning issue of transition of economic dependence of production from oil and gas sector to the clean energy, like renewable resources of energy. Before I start some deliberations on the topic, I would like to regret that our Vice Chancellor today was busy and had a meeting with Chief Secretary of Sindh. That's why he could not participate in this webinar. And 2 of my fellows also regretted in morning. So if they would have been here with us, would have been good. But anyway, we have good participation from different institutions. From Shah Abdul Latif University, I am representing, along with me, as per directions of our worthy Vice Chancellor, we have requested our Dean Faculty of Social Sciences to be part of this webinar. He is accompanying here with me, and he would be deliberating something on the issue, and will give you some brief overview of the rural areas around the university. So whenever we are talking about energy, it is actually the raw material that that or input we are using for production. Since years, we had seen the load shedding. We saw people burning tires on the roads so that they can have less number of hours load shedding in rural and urban areas. And we saw people agitating, we saw people attacking on WAPDA offices because of overbilling, because of shortage of electricity, non-supply of electricity, because of low voltages. All these problems were there. And during last 10 to 15 years, we saw that the supply of electricity to industry across Pakistan was also falling. Because of that, not only the employment level in industrial sector was falling, but the exports were also falling, and we were losing our share from the international market. But suddenly, since last 4 or 5 years, I have seen that the demonstrations against WAPDA as the sole supplier of electricity has fallen down. And the number of attacks on this institution has also fallen down. We recently saw that the textile sector of Pakistan has outperformed in export sector the India. So what I was contemplating on that, is it some miracle or some policy shift or something has changed technologically, like we have moved from low productivity technology to high productivity technology, or something else has happened. Then when I was digging out something on that, I found that there might be many reasons in the whole change that has occurred during last couple of years. That big change is the popularization of solar and wind power. So when people, I don't know about how much percentage of our power sector is depending on renewable energy, but I'm sure that when I'm visiting rural areas around Khairpur and Sakkha districts, I have seen people who were sitting without electricity, and they were seeing their farms and orchards and pieces of land go infertile because there was no water available there, because there was no electricity. But now when I go around these rural areas, when they are there and they are not having any on-grid connections, they are not having any electric supply, they are buying few solar plates, installing them during the daytime. They are sharing the power for their tube wells and their animals, and in the night, after installing 1 or 2 batteries, they can light their houses. The consumption of electricity in rural areas, that is almost 48% of the whole province, is just 2 fans and 2 lights per household. So, and for that, buying 3 solar plates and 1 or 2 batteries can reduce their budget on the power as well. So the reason behind this whole shift in less violation against the electric suppliers and more supply to the industry was the availability or popularization of solar energy. This is on one side. The second thing is, with availability of alternative sources of power, people have increased their options of livelihood. So when they have power supply, they have a lot of things to work on. So while ladies, they are using their skills of cultural handicrafts. Without light, they are unable to do that. But now in villages, we have seen that the girl workers, they are working on handicrafts like shirts, like trousers, like many fashion clothing, so cultural fashion clothing. When they have light and power supply in their houses, they are able to work there. And this is also affecting the availability of these cultural handicrafts in the smaller, closer markets. Like before, we had a very less number of cultural clothing, fashion clothing. So it had never been the point where we had seen cultural clothing as the part of fashion. But now it is, and the reason behind that is the capacity of these ladies who are sitting in rural areas is increased because of available supply of electricity through solar power. And this region, particularly Khairpur and Sakkar region and Larkana region, we don't have any such a strong wind corridor. So I would say that in absence of strong wind corridors like we have in Garo or Champir, where we have operational wind power plants, we don't have that. But solar is, like Dr. Vakar said, is the big source of energy, and it can generate 9 gigawatts of energy every year, and can reduce the dependence of the whole country on import bill of fossil fuels. So, and it not only can increase the availability of power there, but it can impact the overall human development, like skills of people can be improved, like institutions, their training skills and their productivity in their marketplaces and industrial zones can also increase. Afterwards, I would like to include a part where, when I was looking at the proposal, the title of the webinar, I thought that when we are talking about renewable energy, particularly the solar power, then we have to not only see the generation of electricity and power, but we should also see the forward and backward linkages which are boosting this sector. So then I saw that the Sakkar market, since last couple of years, and the Khairpur market alike, both are flooded with solar plates. So if I was thinking that if we had taken somebody from microfinance bank who could elaborate on the funding opportunities for manufacturing of the same solar plates to fulfill the supply, the demand for solar plates in the region, would also affect the livelihood of people who are living in urban areas. So not only the power supply is improving the living standard of people who are living in rural areas, but it is also, or it can be the source of livelihood for people who are living in rural areas, in a way that these solar power plates can also be produced in the region. So if some investors from the region might plan, okay, so the demand for solar power is increasing, and because of that, not only the demand for solar plates is increasing, but the demand for the skill which is required to work with solar energy is also rising. So instead of buying these solar plates from some other parts of the country or importing from, we can have research here, and we can give loans to the investors who are manufacturing these plant and solar plates in this region. So summing up the whole cascade of arguments, I would say that this transition from fossil fuel dependent power sector to the renewable energy power sector would be beneficial for so many sections of the society, along with the improving in the environmental conditions as well. So keeping in view the practical side of the whole phenomena, Shah Abdul Latif University, Khairpur, is at a geographical location where we are connecting three provinces. So on one side, we have the closest city of Punjab, that is Rainjar Khan, just 2 hours from Khairpur and Sakkar. And on the other side, we have Sibi in Balochistan at 3 hours of a distance. So we have seen students from Rahim Yar Khan and Bahawalpur, and the teachers from those universities visiting our university in Sakkar, and students from Balochistan as well. So this region not only can have a capability of intervening in this sector positively with research and skill orientation, but it can also help further research and can connect this region with the rest of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Naveed. And I think you summed up quite well with not only the background of this discussion that is going to be followed by your talk, but also just to give a brief round of objectives that we had also presented in our concept note earlier. But just to highlight a few, since we are focusing on the rural Sindh, trying to identify the potential for renewable energy sources for the socioeconomic prosperity of the region. We would be happy, we would be looking forward to discuss about the environmental and the socioeconomic impacts of the oil and gas companies in the region, identifying the way forward for the companies towards clean energy transition, and also looking into the perspective and the impacts of COVID-19. We would like to seek some inputs in terms of green recovery options for the oil and gas sector. Also looking into the challenges and the opportunities to redirect their investments to meet the global and the national climate commitments. In also looking into the CSR, the corporate social responsibility of those companies, and how they could align their strategies and their policies to meet the global agenda, and also the clean energy pathways for Pakistan. So moving on, I'll just go on to the panel discussion, and would like to give a floor to our first expert, who has joined us from IBS Sakkar, Dr. Fahim, who has recently got his PhD done from University of Edinburgh, UK, in the energy systems. His major area in research was integration of offshore wind farms to onshore AC grid through the HVDC technology. Before going for doctorate, he did his master's in electrical and electronics engineering from University of Nottingham. His bachelor's is in power engineering from Mehran University, and he has a very sound foundation earlier in his career. He has joined Sakkar IBA in February 2010. Before, he worked as a trainee engineer at Universal Cables Industries Limited. So over to you, Dr. Fahim, for your insights and contributions to the forum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hina, and thank you very much. SDPI is the topic, and the concept note I have read is very, very relevant and is near to my heart. So the core thing is that we have been living through this issue of unavailability of electricity, and it has effect in multifacets. So it's an effect in all ways, like be that economic, be that our living standards, be that in the way we are moving forward. So the issue of electricity is affecting in all manners, and this need to be tackled as you said, that this need to be tackled in a way that it shouldn't be affecting the environment much. So being from the technical background of electrical engineering, so scenario of generation is that at present we have 37 gigawatts of energy that is being generated in Pakistan, and the demand at the present time is 25 gigawatts. So we can see that we are already having a surplus of energy, as mentioned in the concept note as well. but the transmission is in the bottleneck. So the transmission capacity is 22 gigawatts in Pakistan. So that 22 gigawatts remaining is a 3 gigawatt, which we cannot basically evacuate from generation to the demand side. Now, if you look into the demand side again, so demand side is basically industrial consumers broadly and the consumers who are the domestic consumers. So in Pakistan, the major issues that we already, are popular and we most often hear of are the demand side from the domestic consumers, because the industrial consumers, just like mentioned by Dr. Naveed as well, the textile sector and the big industries, they are already given on priority. So their electric supply is without interruption. With the inclusion of in last 5 to 6 years, the IPPs, Sahiwal power plant and big power plants are there, which are still, that is another story that unfortunately they are running on coal or fossil fuels. So the quick fix was that to meet the shortfall of energy, that previous government policies was to bring in the IPPs and fossil fuel based things and LPG based power generation. So that was added. So at present, we have met our total target. We are above our total target, but the transmission and bottleneck. And second thing, the major sector which is being affected is the domestic consumers. So there is still 8 hours of load shedding in rural Sindh, and people are without electricity. And on the top is also mentioned in the concept note that 25% of population is without access of grid. So there is what to talk about the provision of electricity, but they barely have the access to the WAPDA supply or SEPCOs or whatsoever distribution company in that area is. So rural areas do not have the access to the grid. So regardless of power is being supplied or not, they are without electricity, and this is very huge number in terms of Sindh. It is 50% of our population is in rural areas. So as also mentioned in the concept note, that 13,000 villages are still out of this excess of electricity. Now this is multifaceted problem. So looking into it in a different ways, so what are the solutions? What we can think about? Number one is the if we go towards to the grid side, to the bigger picture, we can see that transmission is in bottleneck. So there are number of projects which are being launched by the government, and that's a big on a bigger side issue. So that is not from the society side or a quick fix from any company. So the government has taken that initiative, and it has taken an initiative for HVDC line, which is being installed in from Matiari to Lahore for 4,000 megawatts to be transferred from Matiari to Lahore, which is being generated from the charcoal. So this is one of the project that is being launched by the government and initiative taken by that. So that could fix, and there are still challenges. They are in energizing phase. So we are working very closely in technical side of that project. And number second issue that we talked about is the excess of electricity. So how we can, and that is more relevant to the rural population. So that has nothing to do with the major issue of bigger generation in Pakistan network. So if we talk about the excess of electricity in rural areas, so obviously, as Dr. Naveed also mentioned, that there is a huge influx of solar systems. That is a very promising technology that is giving already proven itself by showing big contribution to the households, to the people, and to the rural areas, to rural Sindh. We have witnesses, we are eyewitnesses of it, and we are getting benefit of it in some way as well. But there are issues, there are challenges in terms of quality of these solar panels which are being supplied, the trust of people. So market is not because people have they've not been using it for years. So the we can say their labeling or their standards or their certifications are not there, so people get deceived and they do not get the good quality panels. So market need to be looked into, that how they can ensure that the people who are going to opt for this are getting the quality materials, because the markets are influxed by the low quality materials, which are B, C, and D class of the solar panels made from the Chinese companies. So they get very bad feedback once they put a lot into that and they do not get the output.
And Dr. Fahim, I'm sorry to intervene. Would it be possible to just wind up in a minute so that we have number of panelists for 5 to 7 minutes each, as mentioned earlier?
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't know what was the time limit.
Thank
I'm
you.
concluding it. So that could be one thing, that giving the certifications and good material in there. Number second, for the rural population, we can think about the microgrids. So these are technical solutions that can be given to the local areas. So microgrid is very a novel concept, that smaller grids of maybe 15 to 20 kilowatts, or maximum 50 100 kilowatts can be installed in the rural areas. So each village has its own grid, and that can be monitored by them for their own different purposes. So these are two conclusions again to conclude this discussion, that there are challenges, and this is very much relevant to deal with these challenges of electrical power generation and power shortfall. But we need to do it with a cleaner energy, and we need to opt for the options which are very much viable, not for only the urban areas, but for the rural areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fahim. And I think with this, I will just quickly move on to an expert from the industry, from oil and gas sector, Mr. Yusuf Siddiqui. He's a CEO, Angro Pack Terminal Limited, and LNG Terminal Limited. He's just joined in April 2020. Prior to this, he has headed the Shell businesses in Tunisia and Jordan, and he's an energy industry executive having 24 years of experience leading upstream, downstream, and renewables energy ventures in Shell, Eni, and BP. He has a global career profile with diverse assignments, including countries like Netherlands, Iran, Italy, and Pakistan. He brings valuable experience and expertise in safety, technical, strategic, and commercial leadership in working with the world's most topmost operators and innovators in the changing energy landscape. And I think he would be rightly fit into this discussion on identifying the clean energy pathways for Pakistan in this domain. So over to you, Mr. Yusuf. And I think
Hi, sorry, I had informed that Mr. Yusuf had some last minute commitments. I hope you can hear me
yes, we can
clearly.
hear
I'm
you.
representing him. Okay, so Assalamu alaikum to the esteemed panelists. I am representing Mr. Yusuf Siddiqui because he had some last minute board related engagements. And so he asked me to represent him in the forum. I have been hearing to the comments by the experts before me, Dr. Naveed Saab, Fahim Saab, and we agree with the discourse on sustainability. As far as our company is concerned, we are essentially an infrastructure. We lie at the cross section of infrastructure. So we have two terminals, and we are importing LPG and LNG, the liquefied natural gas. However, we have another, because Engro is a wide group, and we have a set of company called Engro Energy Services, whereby we work in the rural parts of Sindh, in the Therkol project and other places. Now the focus on renewables is also something that Engro as a group is planning to do. As now, this is the main aim for us to take the next step, because essentially for the last 50 years, Engro itself is relying on traditional sources, which is the natural gas for the fertilizers, which is in a way we are also into the coal mining. However, the renewed focus at the top level is now to explore the renewable sector. And so Fahim Saab talked about microgrids, and Isapele Naveed Saab talked about the solar panels. In our own terminals, we have started green initiatives. So I would like to highlight them for now. First is our first solar power project at the terminal, which is a 158 kilowatt power project. This actually, the total terminal power utilized from this solar is 20%. So we have started this project around 2 years ago, and last year we reduced about 100 tons of carbon dioxide annually, and we produced around 193 megawatt per hour in 2020. Now, besides solar power projects, which is a pilot that we did for our own terminals, we are also looking at some other green initiatives, such as the urban forest. We have on 1,000 square kilometers, we started with a self-sustaining, fast-growing, independent urban forest, and it has been planted with 500 plants. So these are some of the CSR initiatives that we are taking. Besides the urban forest, we have also partnered with the ISN to relate store mangroves on 500 hectares. We have challenges with these kind of projects, because obviously 4 times more carbon than the rainforests. There is a lot of challenges in keeping the maintenance of the restoration areas, because of the rain, because of sometimes some of the liabilities due to development area activity happening, sometimes revamping the land, and sometimes the mangroves are destroyed even after they're planted. So the main is an issue. So the 2-3 areas that we are working on currently within our own terminal capacity, but this is a effort. A larger footprint will be done through our other companies, which are the Engro services, which are actually how to move towards the more renewable sector, and solar power planning and different new ways of grid is also part of our long-term business strategy. So that's from my side. I would give the forum back to Hina.
Thank you so much, Nimra, and we understand the urgent matters, but I think you explained really well the initiatives that are being taken by Engro. And thank you so much for your valuable insights and contributions with regards to this. So I think moving on, I would like to invite Dr. Lashari, Taj Muhammad Lashari. He's a Dean Faculty of Social Sciences who has joined us sitting with Dr. Naveed to shed his perspective and lights to this forum.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I would like to extend my cordial thanks to SDPI, Sustainable Development Policy Initiative. It is a good initiative taken for the social responsibility, because in Sindh, especially the 3 districts, Khairpur, Ghodki and Shahadadkot, has a huge potential as far as oil and gas reservoirs are concerned. So definitely it is the social responsibility of the same oil and gas fields to provide solar energy to the downtrodden peoples, the peoples who are living below poverty line. Definitely it will boost their economy, education, as well as health facilities. So it is the primarily duty of the gas and oil fields. Definitely district governments, deputy commissioners are also responsible to provide this facility to the peoples. So ultimately it will provide in ample opportunities for job, as well as business promotion will be promoted, education sector will be boosted up, and definitely it will even agriculture product will be also increased and enhanced by installing solar tube wells in these areas. So completely it is the legal, moral responsibility of these oil and gas fields to ensure to supply the solar energy to the poor peoples, because definitely their living standard will improve. As a result, there will be a peace and tranquility in these areas, because there is also lawlessness in the rural areas. Definitely in the availability of the light, they will feel a sense of security as well as. So briefly, it is the duty of these oil and gas fields to provide energy to the people with their adjoining areas as per part of the social responsibility in order to develop the community. Thank you. Sir?
Thank you so much, Dr. Taj. And I think rightly said about the role of off-grid solutions for the rural communities. And also, I think with this and the other panelists highlighting some of the CPEC investments and also the role of the CPEC investments in this regard on the topic that we are discussing on how they could be diverted towards the clean energy solutions. We have with us Mr. Henry Chang. Henry in simple, in English as an English name, who is an expert on energy policies and investment barriers for a low carbon economy. He has joined us all the way from ICF China, Senior Manager, Energy and Low Carbon Specialist. And he would be shedding light on how these investments in CPEC could be diverted to more low carbon and more renewable projects to help meet the climate objectives of Pakistan. So how these opportunities could be harnessed under the relationship. Over to you, Henry. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thanks, Hina. And also thanks for the invitation by SDPI and SCLU. Today I'm going to share some of my observations from the lens of harnessing energy collaboration and investment opportunities through the CPEC. For the past 7 years of energy collaboration on the CPEC, all the planned 12 power generation projects are completed, and the projects will in total create 7.2 megawatts power generation capacity and account for around 40% of total power production in Pakistan. They have also created for more than 10,000 new jobs as a result of these beautiful figures of the CPEC. The situation of the power storage, the power shortage is improving, and it also makes the CPEC a flagship cooperation of the BRI initiative. So for Pakistan has rich oil and gas resources and is currently highly dependent on them. For this situation is quite similar to coal for China. Since 2016, China was actively promoting the concept of clean coal, but unfortunately, we didn't get much buying in the international community. And natural gas, on the other hand, was defined as the transitional energy by G20. So I think for the oil and gas will still play an important role in Pakistan to ensure a stable transition to a clean energy system. And on this front, there are multiple areas that China and Pakistan can collaborate on the oil and gas. So for example, the upgrade of the oil and gas infrastructure, new pipeline development, petroleum refinement, petroleum and the natural gas exploration and production. On one hand, there are already many lessons that can be learned already from China and other countries. If we march towards a clean energy economy too quickly or not in a systematic or coordinated way, it may harm the energy security or increasing the living cost of ordinary people. Well, on the other hand, the oil and gas companies have quite limited time frame to explore their business transition. There are sufficient evidence on this front already. For example, like the top 5 Chinese power generation companies have stepped up their commitments to reach the carbon peak within 5 years. And most of them plan to reach more than 60% of renewable energy in their total power generation capacity in the 2035. Another example for that is that last year, BP sold their petrochemical business branch to invest in renewable energy. And these are perfect signals to provide an urgent alarm for oil and gas companies to rethink how to fit their business into a cleaner and energy system. And they also mark the change on the energy investment directions on the CPEC as well. After Pakistan's announcement on the 2030 targets, China is also adjusting evaluation criteria for projects that can be supported by government for CPEC. So meanwhile, China also launched new guidelines on climate financing and for the green loans. So in those guidelines, clean coal has been removed from the loan preference list. And then besides that, the reporting requirements on the CSR will be in place to tighten the business conduct for Chinese listed companies, not only in domestic market, but also for international investment behaviors. So it can be expected that the energy investments through CPEC will be support less carbon incentive projects and the buzz on cleaner energy ones. I guess that's all I share for now. Hand over to you, Hina.
Much, Mr. Chang, and I think very encouraging to see initiatives that the Chinese government is going to take not only domestically but also in the international market towards low carbon initiatives, including the guidelines that are to be taken up by the investment sectors and the priorities, and also looking into aligning with the Pakistan's new targets for 2030. That is the alternative renewable energy policy of promoting 30% solar and wind by 2030 and 30% hydro by 2030. So with this, I think I would just quickly move on to invite our next expert, Dr. Khalid Ahmed. He's an associate professor of economics from IBA Sakha. He has done his PhD from Wuhan University of Technology in 2013 and been serving with IBA after that. His area of interest falls within applied economics, with particularly focusing on sustainable development. And he has served as a director, Office of Research, Innovation and Commercialization prior to the departure for postdoctoral university at the University of Cambridge, jointly funded by Charles Wallace Foundation and Erasmus Mundus European Commission in 2015. With this, I would just like to quickly move on to give a floor to Dr. Khalid and look forward to hear his perspective. Dr. Khalid, are you with us?
I think he got disconnected. Maybe we can shift to the next panelist. He can join in later.
Yeah, I just recently saw his video. So I'll quickly move on to Dr. Ali Raza Shah.
Dr. Ali Reza Shah is also not here, ma'am.
Okay, I think he's unable to join us as well. I think we would quickly move on to Mr. Sajjad Hussain Tal. Are you with us?
Sajjad Hussain Talpur Sahab is here, but just let me connect his mic, please.
All right, I think before we try to have him on the board, I'll just like to give a floor to Ms. Maha Kamal, who is a co-chair of Women in Energy Pakistan. She's an international...
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. I am the Sajjad Hussain Talpur, Director of Planning and Development, Benazir Bhutto University of Technology and Skill Development.
Sure, sir.
I am grateful to SDPI and Abdullah invited us panel discussion. Important panel discussion pertaining I want to share something pertaining to the role of TNP companies in transition of green energy. I did remain as environmental monitor of all throughout the Pakistan in TNP companies.
I think we have lost him again.
Let me
somehow. I think we should just move on to our next speaker, and then we can come back to him later.
Excuse me, Ms. Hina. I can resume his conversation, please, from my mobile phone.
Sure, please.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. There is a need for utilization of CRC fund of TNP companies in proper way.
I'm sorry, if you could be a bit louder, we would really appreciate if you could be just a bit louder.
Hello.
Yes, now
do you listen?
Perfect.
Okay. We are all aware that Sindh is producing more than 70% oil and gas reserves from this province. But the most oil producing district is Badin and gas producing is Khairpur. But the conditions of their people and the facilities, everybody is known well.
that reveals that the CSR responsibilities of island gas sector, they can't perform their duties as they have required in that area. Uh, One thing I would like to mention here that the CSR fund that is being collected by the district administration and whatever the projects are being submitted at district government, that project needs to be reviewed first and then process for approval into the board, because many of the projects are being politicized and these projects are neither feasible on the ground. And we would have to convey our message to the government that the university's experts may be involved for the review of that project. Now, one thing I would like to mention that is important. Here, the Sakhar division, particularly Khairpur district, has the potential of tidal power. That study had already been carried out by the JICA Pakistan. It was that study. There is a potential for tidal power generation at Rodi Canal near Tandomasti Fall. It has more than 30 to 50 megawatt power generation capacity. And secondly, the we are talking about the solarization and solar energy, but we have a model here already available for solar grid station at Sakhar IBA. They have good grid station, solar grid station, and in same pattern we may follow to the other districts. I hope this will be a great achievement for all. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And I think we have with us Mr. Abdul Shakur Sheikh, who has done bachelor's in engineering and petroleum. Since both of you are sitting together, so probably if you would like to continue your the discussion from there, and we could move on. So he has graduated from Mehran UET and has worked with Sindh Technical Education Vocational Training Authority with the newly established institutes named Petroleum Technical Training Institute Khairpur as an instructor. So I'll just give a floor to Mr. Shakur for his valuable contribution.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning to everyone. It's really a great matter of great opportunity and great honor for me to be invited as a panelist this particular discussion by Sustainable Development Policy Institute. My name is Engineer Abdul Shakur and I'm currently working as Assistant Professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering Technology in the PBS University of Technology and Skill Development. And I'm very much thankful to Dr. Naveed Sheksa from Shabdalti University for actually inviting the panelist from our university. And it was really a matter of great attraction and excitement for me to be representing my university and to be actually talking about the energy and renewable energy sector. I was actually visiting news last night and came up with a very interesting article. This is actually titled as a locally manufactured solar panel set to roll out in Pakistan. Before this panel discussion, we had an informal talk with Mr. Dr. Naveed Sheikh Saab, and he was of the view that we'll be having some representatives from the banks and different financial institutions who could actually invest in the possibility of manufacture of a locally prepared solar powers in Pakistan, solar PV cells in Pakistan. So before that, I not knew that whether there are any particular organizations or companies which are manufacturing solar PV cells in Pakistan or not. But while going through the article, I came to know that UET Peshawar, University of Engineering and Technology Peshawar, There is Dr. Najibullah Marwar Sahab, who is working as professor there, and he is the founder of or the developer of the United States Center for Advanced Studies in Energy. Uh, his profile is very attractive, and he has a very good number of citations to his credit. But one thing that attracted me the most while reading his profile is that he is the person who has initiated the idea of developing a third generation solar PV cell. Now, what is a third generation solar PV cell? It is a kind of a photovoltaic solar panel which is capable of producing electricity and has the efficiency of more than 30%. Now, why do I actually tell you about all this? Because 99% of the solar PV cells being supplied all over the world, and especially in Pakistan, are the ones based on crystalline silicon solar panels. But they have the efficiency of not more than 11 to 15%. Just like Dr. Fahim from Sakkar IBA mentioned, that the materials being used and the solar PV cells commonly available in the country are of second quality. They do not prove to be up to the mark, and the maximum efficiency that we happen to obtain from them, out of them, is not more than 15% or 16%. So this is the case, or this is the condition with the products available in the country right now. And there are also being imported from other countries like Germany or China. But if we start focusing on the preparation of or the manufacture of solar PV cells under the supervision of people like Dr. Marwatullah, Dr. Najibullah Marwat Saab, we can definitely not just use indigenous products like sand from Tharpakar Registan or Tharpakar or Thal Registan. We can also pave the way for the development of setup or infrastructure which could enable us to manufacture the PV cells in the country with higher efficiency. This will not just be very much cheaper for us, this will not just be very much efficient for us, but this will also be helping us to actually get ourselves counted in the technologically advanced countries in the world. Because it's very rare that these kind of PV panels get commercialized in even the first world countries. So I particularly take it as an opportunity for ourselves that we should make the most of this particular innovation, this particular initiative led by Dr. Najib Saab. Is my voice audible? There was a message on the screen. Probably.
Yeah, that's just a poll that we are going through simultaneously. So please continue. We can hear you.
Okay. So according to him or according to his center, Pakistan can not just become self-sufficient in this particular section, but we can also improve our capacity in the manufacture of solar PV cells, which will also enable us to export them outside the country. So I believe we must take it as a very good opportunity for ourselves to focus on manufacture of these third generation PV cells, because these PV cells are of a very high quality, and the stakeholders which can get involved in this business, like the financial institutions or like the oil and gas sector that we have just talked about, they can also be spending very less, and the cost of infrastructure would be at least 3 times lesser than the cost of infrastructure that will be required for development of the conventional PV cells. So this is something that I thought is very much important to be shared with all the people right here in the sitting as a panelist. And I believe if the message is conveyed through this particular SDPI institution to the people sitting in the corridors of power, or to the people who are responsible for making the policies, the country level policies, and the people who are actually responsible for preparing or manufacturing of such products, we can definitely expect much more to be helpful for the country's economy and for uplifting the employment capability of the common people, especially the rural areas. And we can also expect the overall development, sustainable development, to be achieved in a very fast and rapid manner. So I thought that this is in a specific particular point that we should be focusing on, and this should be treated as one of the important aspects to achieve, or one of the important targets to achieve for different organizations or different policymakers of our country. Because I was going through the alternative renewable energy policy of 2019 developed by the Ministry of Energy and Renewable Energy. And it's very surprising to notice that in April 2019, the amount of electricity or the power produced by our country was 7,955 gigawatt hours. But in April 2020, this particular figure fell down to 2057. So in 2019, it was about 8.2% of the overall power produced in the country. But in 2020, this fell down to 2.4%. So that's what's quite surprising. And probably that might have happened because of different factors, which I cannot definitely count on, or which I cannot definitely share here. But if we increase the capacity of renewable energy generation, especially solar PV cells in our country, and if we specifically think about manufacturing the third generation PV cells in our country that can be manufactured locally, we can expect our economy to boost up, we can expect our unemployment to reduce to a great extent, and we can expect the oil and gas sector to feel actually interested and attracted in investing in this particular sector, because uh, moving towards this specific section, or moving towards thinking about investing in this particular indigenous product to be used as a raw material for the production of solar PV cells, they would feel more comfortable about it, because they will have to invest lesser amount of money and expect a huge amount of production of quality solar PV cell photovoltaic cells in the country. So I believe shifting in the renewable energy source is the only option we are left with, because the oil and gas sector, or the amount of oil and gas resources all over the world, and especially in Pakistan, is declining quite sharply. And we would be required to switch to electrical vehicles, we'll be required to renewable energy sources, even if we want or not, because in some way or the other, there has to be one day when all of these indigenous sources of fuel are going to run out. Not only this, the oil and gas uh, are very much bad or notorious in producing carbon emissions, or in actually damaging the ozone layer, that is actually preventing us from the harmful rays of the sun. So one of the goals of sustainable development goals set by the United Nations, it is important for us to actually save the environment, preserve the environment, and prevent it from getting affected by the carbon emissions. So renewable energy are the ones, especially solar photovoltaic cells, are the ones which do not contribute to any carbon emissions at all. I know, I agree that there are some side effects of when the manufacture of a huge amount of solar PV cells as well, like there is a rise in temperature, or the rise of humidity, decline in humidity level in the atmosphere, but that can be mitigated, because the extent of the hazard, environmental hazard posed by them, or the threat of the hazard posed by them, is at the moment very insignificant. So we can cope up with that, or we can definitely try to adjust or develop some other means to reduce that amount of population, that kind of population. But when it comes to carbon emissions, when it comes to hazardous environmental gases in the atmosphere, we can expect renewable energy to be the only solution for us for developing an atmosphere which is sustainable for not just our generation, but for our future generations as well. So this is something that I wanted to share with all the panelists. And I'm really once again thankful to all the people who shared their valuable thoughts on this. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shakur, for highlighting especially not only the energy access, electricity access issues, but also looking into how crucial it is to overcome the environmental challenges being posed by the fossil fuel development and the resources other than renewables that have lesser carbon footprint, and also looking into the socio-economic prosperity of the region. With this, I'll move on to Ms. Maha Kamal now. She's a co-chair Women in Energy Pakistan, and having an international public policy specialist experience with a focus on energy policy. She was awarded the achieving scholarship for a Master's in International Public Policy, Queen Mary, University of London. She has received a distinction on her dissertation on conflicting goals, assessing the Paris Agreement through the lens of energy security. She holds 2 bachelor's degrees from Boston University in International Relations and Journalism. So I would like to invite Ms. Maha for her insights on the discussion being going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hina. It's always a pleasure to be back at the Sustainable Development Policy Institute related events, and specifically because the clean energy transition is a topic that is very close to my heart. So first of all, achieving net zero emissions will need a complete transformation of Pakistan's energy system. Even today, we've made so many strides in clean energy, but Pakistan's energy mix is still dominated by oil and gas. For Sindh, of course, the good news is that this province has great potential in wind. For example, we know that the Garo wind corridor is recognized as one of the strongest wind corridors in the region, right? Similarly, we know that great strides have been made with the Sindh solar energy project. And so great work is happening now in Sindh as well. And of course, there's so much more potential for wind, for solar, and for other renewable energy in Sindh. However, the conversation in the oil and gas sector of Pakistan will have to move beyond just corporate social responsibility. What is needed is this transformation in the oil and gas sector with a diversified portfolio and heavy investments in clean energy. This is happening at the global level, of course. We know that companies like Shell have focused on developing renewable power, biofuels, hydrogen, and they aim to cut their net carbon dioxide footprint. And so that really needs to be pushed in Pakistan's oil and gas sector as well. Really, it should be in line with our commitments under the Paris Agreement at the upstream, midstream, and downstream levels. So at the moment, what I foresee is that it will have to be a top-down push as well as a bottom-up push to net zero, right? Of course, I am cognizant of the fact that energy transitions will have to take into account the social and economic impact on individuals, on communities, and really treat people as active participants. And therefore, for Pakistan, we will have to think on 3 fronts. Number one, the economic impact. We must have a focus on reskilling Pakistan's oil and gas workforce and reskill them for the clean energy transition. Number two, we have to be cognizant of the environmental impact in this transitioning because we'll have to move over time towards cleaner cooking. Possibly even one day we may even have to move away from piped gas in our homes for cooking. And of course, what is important is lastly, number three is the social impact, because so many people even today do not have energy access. And so when we're building these off-grid systems, we will need to ensure that the system caters to them. So these are some thoughts for now. Happy to talk more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maha, for your great insights, and it's always a pleasure to have you back. We have our last speaker with us before we move on to our next round. So that is Dr. Fahim Akhtar. Dr. Bilal Shams Maiman. He's an assistant professor at Mehran University of Engineering and Technology, Khairpur. And his research focuses on the development and optimization of petroleum and renewables resources of Pakistan, especially Sindh region. He has authored publications in reputed international journals and conferences at national and international level, and has worked on energy economics for sustainable development and growth. He is also a member of, and he has several active affiliations with networks and some professional societies. And he had received his PhD from China University of Petroleum, Qingdao. So over to you, Dr. Bilal.
Thank you, Dr. Hina, for a brief introduction. And I'm very much happy to share the panel with very much renowned experts and happy to talk on the role of oil and gas sector in clean energy transition in Pakistan. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I would like to raise interest upon the point that we need to focus on whether is there any carbon emission is more as compared to other parts of a country, especially in our province, Sindh. In a broader aspect, if we can notice that the eastern countries globally contributes more carbon impact in the environmental aspect. And Pakistan has somehow standing in a seventh position in the Asia, which has sort of, we can say, a less carbon impact in a society. So if we can focus on a thing that whether oil and gas is still contributing into energy generation, so the answer is yes, it is somehow contributing in energy generation. But we need to focus on two different things, whether it is contributing on a macroscopic level or it is contributing in a microscopic level. The macroscopic level is it is addressing the need of country. So the answer is yes, it is somehow addressing the need of a country, but especially addressing the need of urban areas. If we can focus on a microscopic level, the rural areas is coming upon, and so we have most of the populations is living into the rural areas, which is almost more than 50%. So urbanization is sort of a good signal to grow a society. But if we can notice on another aspect that if the rural facilities are not being developed, then you cannot foster your economic growth of the country in a broader perspective. So we need to address both macroscopic level and microscopic level to brief the energy demand and consumption requirement. For the alternative things, the agriculture lands are most of the things are like the waste from the agricultures could produce biofuels, as well as the livestock waste also producing some gasification process. Through that we can generate the power, and this can, if the local industries are being developed, are being established in rural areas, we can address the rural energy demand and consumption requirement very briefly and very well. Another thing, we have a very strong coastal area which also contains the hydro energy as well as wind energy. If we can involve the district governments into some decision levels along with the investors and as well as universities, because of the fact that when the graduates are being produced from the universities, we have the most of the main man force to be available from the universities, and we can introduce through district levels, through district governments, the pilot projects to establish a small scale machinery or industry at the coastal areas in order to like establishing the hydropower generation unit or the wind power generation unit. In this way, we can address the need of the energy development, energy consumption, and all sectors play a vital role in an equivalent role in producing the clean energy. It will require some time to shift from oil and gas to the renewable energies, but we can take the three stakeholders on board to plan accordingly. The three main stakeholders are district level, the investors, and the society, and this would be addressed through better policy upon the corporate social responsibility of oil and gas sector and other companies as well. So that's all from my side. Thank you. I'm very much honored to share the panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bilal. And I think we are just joined by another esteemed panelist from Mari Petroleum. His name is Shahryar Khan, and he is an MBA graduate from LUMS with more than 5 years of experience in strategy management and data analysis. He has worked with companies like MPCL, NetSol, Descon, and BP, where he has been a part of team where carving out business strategies and project plans. He has led teams in tough business environments and proven track record of taking initiatives under pressure and delivering results.
Ma'am, I think we should continue. Mr. Sharyar got disconnected, so maybe if he can join it within time, then we can give him the slot at that time.
Sure. And I think we can have him in the next round then, because we are hardly left with half an hour. So with this, I would just like to quickly move on to our next round. So firstly, thank you so much for providing your useful thoughts and perspectives on the role of oil and gas in clean energy transition of Pakistan, and also looking into the challenges and the prospects, not only in terms of the regional development, but also looking into the environmental and socio-economic aspect that is to be covered. With the next round, I would like to have a particular focus on role of academia, since we are fortunate to have collaborated with the Shah Abdul Latif University, and we have some esteemed experts who has joined us from academia. We would like to give a floor to their another round on how the academia has been playing or can play a role in this clean energy transition, and can also be interconnected to the industries in the region, helping them to identify pathways and low carbon solutions and towards the national agenda. So I would just request all the panelists to take 2 to 3 minutes so that we can kind of continue our discussion and have some question answer session at the end as well. And I would also request the audience to please write down their questions in the chat box. So in the next round, we shall be taking them to the respective panelists to answer them. So I will begin with Dr. Naveed Sheikh again on how does he see the role of academia playing this role, the role of academia in this clean energy transition, aligning the pathways, helping the industry, supporting the nation, the national agenda of moving towards renewable resources. Your mic is muted, sir, Dr. Naveed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hina. I think there are two ways through which academia can participate in the whole phenomena to improve the environment by using clean energy. One way is we should revise curriculum. Because at the graduate level, we have some compulsory courses like Islamiyat and Pakistan Studies. Along with that, we should design a course on clean environment and the sources or the ways through which the environment can be clean. So particularly as far as we talk about economy and economic growth and development, we talk about standard of living by improving the income and health. We should include the quality of living as well, where we are breathing. So when environment is improving, the quality of life is improving. So we should include some course, like we have included some compulsory courses on clean environment and quality of life. So this course should not be only at graduate level. I think it should be from intermediate level, so that our students have a clear understanding of the non-income improvement in the quality of life. Second thing is we have postgraduate programs like a Master of Science after graduation and PhD. So we should initiate research grants and research programs, particularly focusing on improvement of life by improving the quality of life by improving the environment. So in this way, we would be increasing the demand for clean environment. When we will have demand for clean environment, definitely in a market where the supply of clean environment is less, the marketeers would definitely be focusing on this. So a person who is demanding for a house in a good clean vicinity, its price is high. So the demand for housing in a clean environment is increasing. That means the premium of clean environment is paid by the buyer of the house. So if we are improving the understanding of clean environment, the things in the economy, as our economy is now market oriented, it will also improve. So these two ways we can link our students working on a clean environment. So industry would definitely follow that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Naveed. I think duly noted, rightly said that there is a need to update the curriculum and the more understanding in our upcoming generation on moving towards the clean energy pathways and how to identify the ways. With this, I think I would like to give a floor to Dr. Fahim from IBS Akka to have his perspective on the role of transitioning, the role of academia in transitioning to clean energy solutions and the systems. Dr. Fahim, are you with us? Dr. Fahim, I'm not sure if your mic is muted. All right, I think I'll just quickly move on to Dr. Bilal, if he could have some thoughts on the question, please.
Am I audible, Dr. Hina?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to add that I am agree with Dr. Naveed Saab that there's need to introduce some subjects into the curriculum that are related to the environmental impact assessment. Another thing is to which is to be addressed in the curriculum and which is to be added, that there are some sort of corporate social responsibility curriculum is somehow missing in the course contents of our studies. This is related to the curriculum revision. However, there is a need to introduce some sort of learning that is related to problem-based to the students. In that type of learning, there will be the inclusion of some brainstorming assignments which would be related to environmental impact assessment and corporate social responsibility, and which also should include the entrepreneurship aspect. This will help students to learn and balance the role of environmental impact assessment, corporate social responsibility, and what are the needs to somehow going through the entrepreneurship of any technical innovation or technical contribution of a technology. So this thing I would like to add on, and thank you for letting me in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bilal. And I think moving on, I would like to pose the same question to Dr. Khalid, and how does he see this transitioning impacting the economy? How could it aid towards a more sustainable economic future of the country? So Dr. Khalid Ahmed.
I think Dr. Khalid is not here.
He is left?
Yes,
all right. If I could request Ms. Nimra, if you are with us.
Hi. Yes. So I think that from our perspective, corporate, and when we talk about academia and public-private partnership, I think it would really help if we could have a very comprehensive analysis of what are the risks of inaction or inadequate action. I don't know if I'm very audible because my internet connection is a bit off. But I think at this point, as a public-private partnership, we should highlight what would be the risks of inaction and not taking action in
We have, I think we have lost Ms. Nimra. Are you with us? I think there is a connection issue. So I would like to give a floor to Henry from China, if he would have his perspective on the proposed question on how does how do we see the role of academia in the industry to have a proper linkage towards low carbon pathways and solutions and supporting the clean energy transition of Pakistan.
Sure, thanks, Hina. For the linkages, I think to facilitate a transition as well as investment towards renewable energy should be considered through a comprehensive approach. We need the collective support from the policymakers, academia, think tanks, etc., to make sure that we have the right policy incentives, right public awarenesses, as well as the good cases for financial institutes to increase their confidence in investing in renewable energy projects. And for the role of academia, I took an example from China's carbon neutrality target. The preparation of that target is actually a combination of academia from the key universities as well as the government related think tanks. It's not an easy process, but it took several years to make sure that all the preparations to announce a policy is ready, and as well as to make sure that the market environment for investment is ready. So then from policy side, I think that's quite important to make sure that the cross-ministries coordination to mobilizing the public-private financing resources are in place. And apart from that, to increase the confidence of investments, there are some existing best practices for improving the cost benefits for investing solar PV. For example, like a combination of the solar PV power generation together with the farming and agriculture. Through these cases, it will be easier for the market to accept that, and also the policy recommendations from the academia will be easier to be accepted. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Henry. And I think quickly moving on to Maha for her quick thoughts on the role of academia and the industries could play, and some of the examples, if you could pose as per your experience.
Thank you, Hina, for the floor. So what Pakistani academia will be critical on 3 different fronts. So number 1, it will be imperative to take a role in reskilling the workforce in this energy transition. So for example, we will need to rework the expertise of oil and gas sector towards hydrogen-based fuels. And so this will mean redesigning curricula and also developing relevant trainings. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be continuing to give critical ideas and inputs in the policy process. and be the bridge with the industry. So identify the needs of the industry in this clean energy transition and quickly innovate in order to keep up with this fast moving transition. Number three would be increasing research and development in some critical areas. So I can identify some of them. And there are, of course, renewable energy, energy efficiency, electrification, bioenergy, carbon capture and storage, hydrogen and hydrogen-based fuels. And of course, from the economic lens, it would also mean having behavioral changes in this energy transition. So these are the number three points. Number one is reskilling the workforce. Number two is being a part of the policy process. And three is increasing R&D. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maha, for your great intervention. I think we have left with Mr. Shakur, Abdul Shakur, for his thought. Any
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. I'm really
yes, just would appreciate if you could be more closer to the mic, because your voice is
sure.
a bit low. Yeah.
I would actually like to add something to the comment proposed by, to the suggestion actually proposed by Dr. Naveed Shekhar. Being an academician myself, being a teacher myself, I believe it's really very important to literally include the subject of health, safety, and environment and each and every level, starting from even in schools, colleges, and universities. But there is one thing that is lacking in our academic setup. What we actually do, we just use to teach things to our students, let them know about the basic terminologies of health, safety, and environment, and score them. That's all we usually do in our universities and colleges. I believe the approach needs to be altered. We actually need to do something practical in order to develop a complete and thorough understanding of the climate change and our responsibility and developing a sustainable environment for ourselves and for our future generations. As an example, I would like to quote, I would like to mention one simple thing. When I was studying health, safety, environment myself, doing a course from Coursera.org, a course developed by University of California, San Diego, we were required to measure the carbon footprint of our individual selves. And there were different number of websites available on the internet which could help us in measuring the carbon footprint of our daily life routines. And when I actually clicked on one of those websites and give answers to all of the questions that were being asked there, I was able to determine the amount of or the tons of carbon emissions that I'm actually contributing in the environment. And I was feeling responsible for contributing in the pollution in our environment. So as a result, I was capable to determine the type of steps that I can take to reduce or to manage or to control my activities, with which I could be in some way or the other reducing the number of emissions that are being produced in the environment because of my own presence or because of my own activities. So this is one of the exercise that can be included in the subjects being offered to the students or the courses being offered to the students. It will not just make them do some exercise, but it will also help in creating and developing a realization among the students that this area is important and needs to be focused on. Climate change is a problem that all of the human beings on the planet are going to suffer. And if we are not going to address it right now, it is going to harm, or it is going to provide a huge loss, economic, financial loss, health loss, environmental loss, and every kind of loss to our future generations. So just as an example, I just wanted to present this idea that this should be included as one of the very important and common topics as exercises in the subjects being offered to the students. Number two, we were talking about industry academia linkages. I feel very happy that universities right now are acting upon the instructions given by the Higher Education Commission, the instructions related to transforming to outcome-based education learning in the universities and the campuses. And one of the important factors or one of the important elements of the OBE system in universities is industry-academia linkages. But I feel sad to actually share this feeling with all of you. And unfortunately, this is the reality of our times also, that the industry academia linkages is definitely being talked about the most. It's definitely the area which we use to discuss in our professional and different kinds of forums a lot. But some practical steps are still absent. Some steps that actually need to be taken seriously and practically need to be considered. For example, in our universities, the amount of theory classes and the amount of practical classes being taught to the students, number of their practical classes being taught to the students are definitely up to the mark and definitely meeting the criteria set by the Pakistan Engineering Council, National Technology Council, or Higher Education Commission, whatever. But the true spirit of practical class is still missing. And I feel sad and I feel very uncomfortable while saying this, that the university administration definitely is taking steps towards transforming their style of teaching and transforming their style of learning. But still, an oversight by the industry is required to be there. Because if the university is being monitored or is being supervised or is being in some way or the other looked upon by the industry, and if we feel responsible towards producing the quality stuff or teaching the things necessary to the students that are actually being demanded or expected or required by the industry, and we are feeling accountable towards producing the graduates that are actually expected, the quality of graduates that are being expected by the industry, we can improve a great deal in this. And in this particular situation, I believe if there are people sitting in this panel or in this discussion from the industry, they can come forward, they can contact universities, or they can somehow develop an understanding with the academia to give this idea a reality, to actually realize this particular concept. Because this is the need of the hour. This is something that we direly need at the moment. The university industry collaboration is definitely being talked about, as I said already, on different forums. But its practical true sense of word, it's not being actually implemented in practically true sense of word. So industry have to come forward. Unfortunately, this is something that I'm having to say, because academia is definitely willing to contribute, but the initiative, but the start has to be taken by the industry, because ultimately they are the customers of the university. Students are also the customers, but after they graduate, university becomes our customers, and we are responsible for providing them the product they want. And what is the product? A quality graduate. And unfortunately, in Pakistan, we have very small number of universities which are offering the standard level graduate to the market. Slowly and gradually, we will definitely be improving, but I believe industry has a very important role in not just shaping the curriculum, but also coming forward to actually supervise the activities being carried out in the university. And this is not just related to educational change, it is also related to climate change also. Because there is a huge amount of talent present in the university. Like we have got very significantly good number of faculty members, professors, associate professors in different universities across Pakistan. But the contribution that they are giving to the society is limited to research publications only. Is actually limited to only developing their own personal profile. So industry, as being the customer, needs to develop some context with them, needs to harvest the potential of utilizing the human resource contained in the academics, and actually utilize the huge number of knowledge, huge amount of knowledge and huge amount of potential present in the university to develop such a settlement to actually pave the way forward for the economic, social, and infrastructure development of the country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shakur. I think the suggestions are really pragmatic and also realistic in a way that if we are talking about the prospects of collaboration between the industry and the academia, and also it plays a very major role in promoting a more rapid, more economical attainment of renewable energy goals of the country. So with this, I will just like to quickly give the floor to our Joint Executive Director, Dr. Vakar, on highlighting the main findings and the issues highlighted in this forum, ranging from renewable resources, assessments, technology deployment, environmental impacts, market infrastructure, and among others that have been presented by our experts and esteemed panelists today. With this, we will be presenting more with the introduction of our networks that SDPI has formulated, and that will be presented by Mr. Ahad. So first of all, Dr. Vakar, it's over to you for the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Hina. Really appreciate today's discussion. And for me, I think I won't even begin to summarize the discussion. It's been so comprehensive, and I will in fact leave it to the report which the team will be undertaking. But I think it's important to mention that there will be a report based on this discussion, which will be shared for the further comments of colleagues who participated today. And we will be requesting you to incorporate or provide us with any refined thoughts that need to go into our report before it is submitted to the government at the federal as well as the government of Sindh. I think today's meeting was very important in bringing to highlight probably 2 or 3 main things. First, what are the key stakeholders doing in this space? And today's meeting has really updated us on the initiatives being undertaken by various stakeholders who've participated today, but also the challenges which they continue to face in walking towards the clean and green energy agenda. I think there was a very productive discussion on the role of academia. And as I had said in the beginning, I would reiterate now that it's only by strengthening the coalitions for change that we can truly implement some of what we have discussed today. Let me take this opportunity to thank Shah Abdul Latif University, Khairpur, particularly Dr. Naveed Sheikh Saab for today's collaboration to hold this meeting and bring on the stakeholders, the main major stakeholders from rural Sindh, whom we have heard today. My special thanks to the esteemed audience, not only from Sindh, but all over Pakistan, who were able to find time and really participate in today's discussion. I did see some questions flowing from the Q&A and chat box. So all in all, a very productive discussion. And I think technical assistance has also been made available by the European Climate Fund TARA project, for which we are also very grateful. And last but not the least, Dr. Hina, my thanks to you and Mr. Ahad Nazir and your teams. You people deserve a special appreciation for organizing today's meeting in a very productive manner. And I guess we all would look forward to the next and future outcomes. Thank you indeed, and it's back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vakar. And I think indeed been a great discussion today. And with this, I would also like to thank you for joining, for your valuable time and great contributions that will, of course, feed the report that will be presented to the relevant stakeholders all over Pakistan in all the provinces and the relevant bodies. And of course, before that, we would be very pleased to have your remarks and your comments on the interventions that we would be putting in the report for forward looking outcomes. With this, thank you so much from my side. I would pass on my the floor to Mr. Ahad Nazir. He's the head of private sector engagement unit at SDPI. for closing. Thank you so much from my side.
Thank you, Dr. Hina, and I hope our research team has taken notes of the excellent discussion that took place today. Just to conclude the meeting, I would also introduce that as part of this project, we have formulated a network of clean energy transition research and advocacy, and we will be sending you a formal request to join that network. All of the panelists as well as the attendees, they will be receiving a link that can be used. And just as part of introducing that network, we will be playing a short video clip of our executive director, Dr. Abid Suleri. I like to thank you all for joining us, and hope to working together. Hopefully we will be working together again as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Transition to clean energy requires collective efforts of government, of academia, of think tanks, and of individual citizens. And in order to promote this collectivity and in order to promote this collaboration, Sustainable Development Policy Institute has initiated a network called Clean Energy Transition Network. If you are interested in promoting clean energy, if you are interested in supporting this transition towards clean energy, then please join us. We have 3 subgroups. The first group is Renewable Energy Working Group. The second subgroup is Corporate Sustainability Group. And the third subgroup is Natural Capital Impact Network. I look forward to seek your support, and I look forward to work in collaboration with you.
Thank you. And just a note that the discussion will be available over YouTube, and we will be sharing the link with you soon. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.